everybody, welcome to Dharma wheel backbends. I love Dharma wheels for backbending because they facilitate passive backbends. A lot of backbends are quite strenuous, and sometimes you may not be in the mood, you may have just come home from work, or just not have as much energy and want to release the anterior chain myofascia. So that's the fascia and muscles on the front of the body. These muscles are prone to getting tight as we sit down in front of TVs, computers, cars and whatnot. And it's really important to keep them open for your posture, for your spine, for your mood, for the health of your organs, so prana can circulate through your entire system and whatnot. Okay, so we're going to break down use the wheel therapeutically first for different parts of the spine. So starting here at the thoracic, placing your wheel in between your shoulder blades, your bum can stay on the ground, feet and knees hip width, and then you can interlock your hands behind your back and just allow the weight of your head fall into the palms of your hands. Narrow your elbows, and this will facilitate your external rotator cuff muscles on the back of the shoulders as the elbows narrow, and just drop the weight of your head back into your hands. Now for some of you, your head will go straight back onto the wheel, and for others of you, your head will be a few inches off your wheel, depending on your thoracic extension. So if your head is back already, you could grab hold of your wheel, let go of your head and grab hold of your wheel. And others may need to spend a little bit more time here, just slowly dropping the head back into the hands more. Your elbows will be moving back towards the back of your mat as the upper thoracic starts to open. Releasing the pecs on the front of your chest. And then here you've a couple of options. You can cactus the arms. If you bring your head back to the wheel, wonderful. And this is going to connect into your cervical extension, the upper portion of the spine. So you can cactus your arms, you get a nice release of your pecs. Or you can crawl your hands back behind your head onto your wheel, grabbing hold of your wheel on either side. And breathing. So let's do whatever position you choose. Let's do some breath work here. The important thing is not just to make the shape, but to hang out. For the fascia to release, we need to use these more yin style and just hang out in the poses, and also to breathe. So I like to ujjayi breathe. You may prefer to nostril breathe if you prefer, as long as your breath is slow and deep. And as you lie and breathe, you can stay on your wheel. Try and think of activating your back body, lifting the upper back off the wheel a little bit. So your back won't move in space, but as you put the intention into the muscles, they start to fire a little bit and wake up that little bit more, helping the front chest to release and supporting your spinal extension. Three more breaths. And then slowly coming up. Good, and placing your hands on the ground on either side of your hips. Great. So from here we're going to work our lumbar spine. So walking your bum back towards your heel and allowing the wheel roll until your bum fits in snug at the edge of the wheel. So here As you arch back again, you can hold your head if you wish and keep your chin drawn into your chest. So now as you arch back, you're going down into the lower thoracic around the base of your ribs, and which is also connected into your lumbars, your lower back. Now it's harder to get the head back or to grip hold of the wheel here. So you could just keep your hands interlocked behind your head. And I'll give another variation and a couple more breaths. So from here, if you weren't able to keep your bum snug to the edge and grab hold of your wheel, then one thing you can do is walk your feet onto your knees if they're not there already. Lift your hips up. And with your hips up, now be careful not to rock from side to side, it will be easier, so therefore applying your core, to reach out and grab your wheel. Now if it's hard, you can do one at a time. So you'll just take your arms back. It's like, okay, they don't reach. Then grab hold of your elbow with the other hand and then guide the elbow back with your hand until it reaches. Once the first elbow is in, it's easy to get the second. Now drop your head back. You're holding your wheel and your head is back onto it, also lying on the wheel. And now very slowly dropping the bum down towards the ground, trying to keep it snug into your wheel. Now this is quite deep, and it also works on your thoracic. It can be a little bit lower down, I guess, depending where you are. You could have your wheel rolled up again in between your shoulder blades, but if you can, keep it lower down, closer to the base of the ribs, where your lower thoracic meets the top of the lumbar. Taking a few more breaths. And then slowly release. Coming up to a seat. And again, taking a couple of breaths. Nice. So the next one is the sacral area. So it's basically at the tailbone sacrum. So we're going to be having our bum right on top of the wheel. So you may want to walk your wheel forward a little bit. And another thing that I've noticed students do, I work with Dharma wheels in my studio when the studio is open. Sometimes people can't reach their head to the ground. So if you had a bolster, you could put a bolster at the back of your mat. If you know that, there would be two things that could prevent you bringing the head and shoulders to the ground. One could be the spine is not flexible enough, and also being short in height could also affect this, because the longer the spine, obviously the easier it is to roll down. So if you were short in height and maybe not so flexible, you may consider putting a bolster or cushion at the back of your mat, or have a go. I don't want to generalize, everybody is different, but just in my experience, that's what I've seen. So but everyone for sure is different. I haven't seen everyone, and I can't see you now. So please work safely. So from here, lift your hips up and then start to roll your wheel slowly down towards your waist until your head goes to the ground, if it does, or onto your bolster. When your head is secure, then walk your feet back onto your knees. I like to grip hold of the sides of my mat here. So I see sometimes people taking their hands over their head. It's actually less stable. You're better off having your hands closer to your feet
and gripping the edges of your mat. So again, chin into chest now, and then straighten your knees just a little bit to see if you can bring your shoulders onto the ground into a little bridge position, and then start to walk your feet back under your knees. So your shoulders are on the ground, the back of your neck is long, you're on the center of your head. It's better not to look to the side. I am to look at you, but I'm fairly comfortable here. Yeah. So, and you want to feel your chair, your wheel directly under, well, there's the lumbar for sure. So now we're going into the lower lumbar, and maybe even the sacral. So bringing the wheel right down to the very end of the spine to help release the anterior sacral fascia. So that's just the fascia connected to the deep hip flexors of where the top of the front of your leg meets your belly. And if you're happy to keep holding your mat, do. If you're comfortable, you could possibly interlock your hands beyond your wheel with the elbows straight and pressed the wrists down, and hold here. Now this is very, for me anyhow, very enjoyable. There's a beautiful passive chest opener. I hope you're enjoying it too. So if not, you could also put your feet on bricks. It could help, especially if the lower back was tight and your pelvic region tight. And really you want to just breathe in the pose and relax. It's very good for energizing your whole nervous system. Okay, so to come out, interlock your hands, grab hold of the sides of your mat again, and start to walk your feet a little bit forward, rolling your wheel up the back. Your head and shoulders come off the ground, and your bum back safely to your mat. Nice. So that's a little bridge. So we've now done the 4 sections of the spine, the sacral, lumbar, thoracic, and cervical. And we are now going to move a little bit deeper into the hip flexors. So we do this from little bridge from the last pose, but this time we'll be working with our head on the ground and not our shoulders. So we won't be going in, so deep onto, all the way back. So for example, if in the last pose you could only get your head down, this will work for you as well. So let's start again. So lifting the hips up, rolling back, bringing the head to the ground, walking the feet back. So here, it can be, your wheel can be at, let's say, the top of the glutes area. So that's where the pressure would be, at the top of your glutes. And that would be a good place before we proceed. So here, grab hold of your mat again, and I'll start with my left foot so you can get a good visual. So walk your left foot back towards your left armpit, and you can take more than 2 or 3 little steps, and then when you're ready, grab hold of your left ankle with your left hand. Yeah. So from here, you're going to point your left toes back towards the left armpit, and use your left hand to bring the toes towards the armpit as much as they can. Now this is where you roll right up onto the top of the head, and then eventually roll your head off the ground as your left knee comes down onto the ground. You can cactus your arms behind you. So everyone's spine length is different. With me, my head is just hovering off the ground. Yours may be a few inches off, or maybe your head touches.
But you do want to have your knee grounded down on the ground. Your arms can cactus. And once again, if you're comfortable, you can come out of the cactus arms and grab hold of the wheel. It's a little bit more advanced. And you can do this passive or active. Like if you're really tired, just let the weight of your body sink down into your wheel. Or if you're feeling like you want to energize your pose, you can lift the back off your wheel, squeeze the left glutes a little bit as well, and activate the posterior chain muscles. Keep the inner thighs hooking in, connecting into the core line. So the glute action, if the glutes are engaged, they are being balanced with the inner thighs, and this is important for your pelvic stability. And then back to cactus in the arms. Roll the knee off the ground as you take your head back down and slowly release your leg. Good. Let's take a breath, just bum to the ground. And then back again to little bridge with the head on the ground. You can do shoulders on the ground if you prefer. And then walking your right foot back this time towards your right armpit, holding your right ankle with your right hand, and then place the right knee on the ground, allowing the head to come off the ground. Again, if it's comfortable, cactus the arms on the ground behind you. Or if it's available, interlocking your hands onto your wheel and bringing your head down. So here we're releasing the hip flexors. Believe it or not, you have a muscle which attaches from the base of your rib cage through your lower back spine, your lower vertebrae, through your pelvis and onto the leg bone at the front of your thigh. So it's a really long multi-directional muscle, or bidirectional, called the psoas muscle. And it's very deep in your body. And it's the primary hip flexor in your body. It's also a synergist of respiration. So it assists your diaphragm in breathing. And sometimes even takes over as the primary mover in respiration, depending on the style of breathing. And it's also a very emotionally sensitive muscle. It's one of the main muscles linked to the fight or flight response. So as you release it, it's important to relax and breathe. Okay, releasing the hands here and the right leg. You can walk your feet down, walk your feet away, bringing your bum down to the ground. And nice and slowly, you can lift your head up. If you wish, you can support it, or just sitting up tall. Nice. Okay, so from here, that might be enough for you. I'm sure you feel like your anterior chain fascia is released. But I'll do a couple more poses now that would be considered to be a little bit more active. Well, the first one, or a little bit deeper. So the first one is we go back to the last one, but we do both legs together. So again, you could repeat if you want to the last one, or do something different. So again, coming back to my little bridge, walking both feet back this time. And dropping down to my knees, head lifts off the ground. And then dropping the head down, cactus the arms. Keep the inner thighs hooking into the midline, navel pinned. And if it's available, you can grab hold of your wheel. And we'll hang out here for about 8 breaths.
And roll your bum back down. Sitting up with a tall spine, let's just take a couple of breaths. Feeling and sensing into your body. And now we're going to do another pose, which can be with an option to making it a little bit more active. This is quite an advanced pose. It's called Viparita Dandasana, inverted staff pose. But with the wheel, it really makes it a lot easier. And for sure, you don't have to lift into the full pose. You can just still do a kind of more restorative style. So working to your level. So starting off again with the wheel centered along your spine, feet hip width on the ground. And we'll start moving towards a little bridge. So grab hold of the outside of your mat, lift your hips up, roll back. And bringing your shoulders to the ground. We'll just open the sacral fascia here for a second. This is actually just a little warm up. And then walking back again, bring your bum to the ground. Inhale, reach your arms overhead, bend your elbows, and take a prayer behind your head. And then if you can, arch back, grabbing hold of your wheel. You may have to lift your bum up to do that, and that's absolutely fine, because we're going to be lifting it up in the next breath anyway. So lifting your hips up, holding your wheel, and then start to slowly slide your elbows back towards the back of your mat, keeping your hips lifted. Now this time, the last time we dropped our bum down, but this time we're going to keep the hips up and walk your feet back over your knees, and then really lift your hips up so they're not just halfway. You're lifting them up, activating your glutes and inner thighs, lifting through your lower back. Press your elbows down, and if you can lift your hips off the ground. And once again, start to walk your feet back towards your elbows. You can stay up on toes. You can bring the heels down. It's the yogi's choice. And then slowly calming down. And rolling back to the ground. Nice. Okay, so from here, we will take our wheel away and just counterbalance. This is important for your spine, which is being deep in extension. So we'll just start holding the knees and pulling them into the chest, allowing the back body now to lengthen as you connect into the front. And then grabbing hold of your outer left foot, half happy baby, drop the left knee down. Your right knee can stay bent, or if it's available, you can extend your right leg straight. Keeping not so much how far you get the knee down, but more that the lower back is beginning to flatten down. And you reconnect with your abdominal core as you pin the navel. And then slowly release the left foot down. Inhale, hold the outer right foot and press the right knee down. half happy baby. Holding here or extend the left leg straight. Keep pulling the navel back, engaging the abdominals. Allow the lower back to flatten after the extension. And slowly releasing. Inhale, take the legs up to tabletop. And exhale, drop them over to the side. Keeping both shoulders on the ground if that's available. Inhale the legs up. And exhale down the other side. And inhale up. And if you wish, you can lie down for a rest. Or if you feel good and that was good for you. Namaste.